Before we get into this latest story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Colombia and a few of my favourite things. I was looking back at previous blog articles, a blogger's version of going through old photos, when I found Introducing Our Colombia, published in July 2017. In that piece, in an attempt to remind readers there's no you in Colombia, each letter from the word Colombia was used to refer to something that represented the country for me. Now, while many things in that original story still hold, I feel it's time for an update. Ergo, I present, in Sesame Street style, My Colombia 2025. Do note, other letters of the alphabet are available to list some of my favourite things in the country, but I have to follow the format here. C is for costeña and cuajada. In my earliest days living in Colombia, I was a fan of costeña lager. While its taste was similar to the more popular Bavaria beers, i.e. Águila and Poker, it stood out from the others thanks to the form in which it came, a 350ml short neck stubby bottle. The rest were in 330ml long neck bottles. Costeña was always competitively priced, too. When Bavaria introduced 750ml bottles in mid-2012, followed a few years later by litre bottles, the beer company shifted away from costeña. Initially, in some parts of Colombia anyway, 750ml costeña bottles had been available, but were soon phased out. The beer eventually disappeared from the tienda fridges. It was only available in 330ml cans in some supermarkets. But in late 2023, costeña came back to liven up the market. OK, no longer is the standout stubby 350ml bottle available, it's in the standard 330ml long neck, but its return in 750ml bottles is very welcome. It's almost always cheaper than Águila and Poker, sometimes up to 40% less, and I don't think it's in any way inferior. Many Colombians seem to agree with me. From my observations, costeña is growing in popularity in cantinas and tiendas across the country. It is the economy of it, stupid. Why pay more for a similar brew that doesn't really offer anything different? Another C I'm compelled to mention here is cuajada, a fresh cheese made from milk curds. For most of my time in Colombia, I'd effectively given up on cheese because I felt the quality of most of it was poor, while I also found it quite costly, relatively speaking. I was guilty, though, of not shopping around on this one, a rarity for me. However, while in San Jose del Guaviare last year, I got into eating cuajada and continue to do so. As it's practically salt-free and very mild, I find it a refreshing snack, particularly in warmer climes. And at an average of 9,000 Colombian pesos per pound, it's not badly priced. O is for oficinas. As a mostly independent operator in these parts, more on that to come, the ability to spend a few hours every day in Colombia's ubiquitous panaderias, cafes cum bakeries, is essential for me. They are my offices, oficinas, where I go to read and write while sipping on a competitively priced, yes, there's a theme here, tinto, that's a black coffee, and the odd piece of fresh from the oven bread. Yes, I could do this in my place of residence, but as I explained in a previous post, the coffee shop effect is at play. I'm better able to focus in an establishment where people are coming and going and where there's a light background noise. Light, that is. Such places do exist in Colombia, at least on occasions. L is for Los Llanos. Los Llanos, Colombia's vast plains and traditional cowboy and girl country. More by accident than design, as with most things in my life, over the last few months I've become well acquainted with the mild hustle and bustle of these plains. To be more specific, considering the enormity of the region in question, I've got to know how things roll in the towns of Granada and that of my current abode, San Martín de los Llanos, neighbouring municipalities in the Meta department. With temperature highs around 30 degrees Celsius, the temptation for an evening ice-cold costeña beer in one of my preferred cantinas or tiendas is difficult to resist. So, residing here may not be the best for my health. Nor is it good for doing computer work. I've little enthusiasm to turn on my laptop. It's the heat's fault. Nonetheless, as a man born and reared on a cattle farm, I find the vibe of the place comforting, most of the time. Sure, it wouldn't be a true cowboy country without the odd drive-by shooting, and I'm warming to the ever-so-pretty tarantulas. O is for on the road. Okay, it would be helpful if there was a U in Colombia for the purpose of this exercise, although I'm not sure if I even have a favourite U. Oh wait, of course I do. Former President Uribe, the People's President. Or the Pais's President, at least. Sticking to the rules, though, my second O is for on the road. This is when I usually feel most relaxed in this land, travelling around it. The following B and I expand a little more on this. M is for menudencias soup. A sign, perhaps, of how much I've adapted to life in Colombia. Years ago, when offered a bowl of soup with hen's feet protruding from it, I'd politely decline while silently thinking what sort of savages eat such tripe, or rather entrails and unsightly body parts of fowl to be specific. Nowadays, I find this pick-and-mix delicacy hearty and wholesome, and, wait for it, competitively priced. It's better than ultra-processed rubbish in any case. B is for Boyacá and Bogotá's barrios populares. While I'm currently based in Los Llanos, in some ways I feel that the Boyacá department is more my spiritual home. One reason for this is that the towns in its loftier and thus cooler locations have what I consider a more Irish countryside hue about them. And because of its mountainous terrain, there is more variety to it than the relative sameness of the plains. For example, the low-lying town of San Luis de Gaiseno, in the department's south, has a culture and climate similar to San Martín. Further north and high up in the Andes is the quaint colonial settlement of Guayacán, close to one of Colombia's few remaining glaciers. There, goats and sheep are almost as numerous as cattle. Ovines are pretty much non-existent in Los Llanos. What I'll call my Boyacá bromance really got going once life started moving again after the pernicious COVID-19 lockdowns. From my base in the far north of Bogotá, within walking distance of the city's northern bus terminal, it was easy for me to escape to the myriad towns further north. And this I happily and regularly did between 2021 and 2023. As for Bogotá's barrios populares, especially Santandercito in the far north, I feel at home there. Yes, Santandercito and surrounds have their rough edges, yet there's a sense of community that I feel is lacking in other, more affluent neighbourhoods in the capital. Many barrios populares are like small, welcoming towns in a big, impersonal city. I is for independence. Colombia has allowed me to avoid working a full-time job, save for one uninspiring experience as a copywriter and translator at a marketing agency from December 2018 to January 2020. Thus, I have been able to move around the country pretty much when I want to. An employer would have to pay me quite an amount of money for me to sacrifice this employment independence, largely economically inactive as I currently am, albeit. As I've said before, I prefer to work with people rather than for people, or work on my own when and where possible. A is for Amazon. Few people in the world haven't heard of the Amazon. No, I don't mean the company, which I've never used. And I'm sure many would love to get the chance to visit it. So, having been on its doorstep for years, it had always been in my plans to go there. Now, while San José del Guaviare, a town I first visited in 2017, is technically in Colombia's Amazon region, it's not in the Amazonas department, and I always felt that I couldn't call time on my days in Colombia without visiting Amazonas. This I finally did in 2024. Very loosely following in the footsteps of Roger Casement, I travelled to the indigenous reserve of La Chorrera. See the description text for a link to a story about that. As I say in that piece, I'm in no rush to return to La Chorrera itself. However, it was quite an experience, and I wouldn't mind exploring other parts of the Amazon in the months and years to come. So that's it, my latest spelling out of what Colombia means to me. Until the next time. Have you subscribed to this channel yet? If not, why not do so right now? It's free and only takes a second. Thanks!